Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm James. Welcome. Hopefully you can see me. What would be a live stream in this day and age without technical difficulties? And we had possibly the biggest technical difficulty in the history of technical difficulties, but we are here just 5 minutes late. One day, one of these streams will start on time, I promise. So first of all, hello, I'm James Penka. I am creative director of Titanic, Honor and Glory. Welcome to the feature first look. We're looking at our first big feature of the game, which is very exciting for all of us. This stream is one that I have personally been looking forward to for a very long time, and a lot of our team has been as well. This is the first stream where we get to talk about something that like we've built from scratch. This current team that we created, we came up with the idea, we grew it to this stage, and we're going to keep growing it until it's on your computers and whatnot. But everything else we've talked about in our first three streams have been super important things that we needed to talk about the game, the status of the game. This is our first thing where we're truly this is our own thing. So let me just double check that things are working. Okay, hold on. We might not be live on YouTube. Is that true? Hold on. Pause for a moment. Let me just make sure. If you're on YouTube, let me know in the chat here. It says it's working. Okay, I think we're okay. Yeah, I've got so many YouTube chats, so many YouTube comments. Good. We're good. All right. So I believe there is like a delay on YouTube. I think it's like a little bit behind Twitch, but whatever. So everybody, we're here and we're talking about log entries, and we're going to get into what all of those are. We're going to meet a member of the team that a lot of you have never met before. We're going to talk about things that we've never talked about before. What I was saying before, I got a little worried about the connection. Yeah, we're just super excited about this because we have grown this feature from the ground up, and it's I think today will highlight a lot of what we're working on over these next few months while we prepare for this free alpha that goes beyond just building the Folksel deck, building the Well deck. There's so much that goes into this stuff. I mean, what we have done up to this point has been just so much amazing work from so many people on the team. It takes so many people just to do some of the simplest things in video games. I certainly have a new appreciation for game development in general since we started working on this stuff. So very excited to get into it. So throughout this stream, if you have questions about this feature in particular, we are going to answer your questions at the end of the stream. How you can ask a question if you're on Reddit, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Twitch, just put in like brackets or parentheses or something, question in all caps, and then your question. And we have members of the team watching the chat, and they'll be writing them down and sending them to myself and Derek, and we will try to answer your questions at the end of the stream. Again, try to keep it on the topic of this feature. Or if we talk about something else, you can also, anything we talk about. Wait. Oh, so here's the thing. YouTube stream is still off, I'm seeing. Here's where I think we may have a thing. There was a stream. Yeah, there's two streams. That's what's up. There are two streams going right now. There's one YouTube stream of people who've been waiting. And I think because of our technical difficulties, I had to start just a fresh, brand new stream. So that's why some of you on YouTube are like, I'm on YouTube, I can see you. But there is another stream that is not live because it's never going to be because we can't get it live. So what we need to do is we need to go over there somehow and tell all those people to come here. how can we do that? Will members of the THG team or people who are watching go into that chat and tell everybody we're over here, or tell them to go to our Twitch or something? I apologize for these issues. We pressed the stream button about 10 minutes before the stream was supposed to start, and discovered that we will not be able to stream from that program for 24 hours, which is the greatest news to hear 10 minutes ahead of time. So hopefully we can figure this out in the next like 5 minutes. And then I don't want to continue on with this without everybody here, you know? Let's go to a little standby, perhaps. Let me put up a little standby thing, and we will see what's up. I'll be right back. All right, folks, we're back. We should be good. I apologize to everybody who was in the correct thing. Let me get this out of here. All right. So my apologies to everybody who was on YouTube and was like, "Where's the stream?" We had a massive technical difficulty, and I had to start a new stream. So there were 2 YouTube live streams going on, and you guys had to come join us here. So hopefully people keep joining us. We're gonna do some usual intro stuff anyway, so people won't miss the log entry information necessarily. So again, everyone, welcome. This is our 4th live stream. Hard to believe we're already on 4 live streams. And we are talking about log entries. We're very excited about it. If you have a question about log entries or anything that we talk about in this stream, just put question in all caps and put your question, and we will answer as many as we can at the end of the stream. Also, we've done some giveaways in the last 2 streams. We've given away some prizes. We're not doing that this week, but we are going to talk about a way that you can win a prize. We have a little contest to announce, which we're excited about. So stick around for that. So just a little update on what's been going on with the team. Something we want to try and do, just keep you guys updated. Pretty soon we're going to start releasing more videos about what's actually happening game development wise once there's more to talk about. But at the moment, things that have been going on, we've been working on log entries. We've been creating concept images to further the development of that. And we're going to show you guys some of those concept images, which are really just meant for us to plan out the appearance of the feature, and then our programming lead, Derek, can take these images that we've all fine-tuned and actually make them real. And so we're going to show this to you guys in a little bit later on in the stream. Derek's been working on a lot in the engine. As I mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago, turning those demos that we've already released, they're all on our website, turning those demos into actual playable, interesting levels and whatnot takes a lot of work. And Derek's been doing a lot of that work. Some of the things like changing the lighting of everything, so that way a day-night cycle can exist, so that way objects can move and the light will actually reflect off of them, stuff like that. And then making objects movable, and we're going to talk about some of that stuff when he joins us in a second. Also, Belfast is being worked on. The ship is being worked on. Parts of the Forecastle deck are being worked on. And of course, our store is being worked on. Our store, which we talked about 2 weeks ago, giving you guys an update on how we're completely revamping our store to make things better and easier and make model wait times lower. We are in the home stretch on that. In the next week, we should have the store up. It looks great. What's done of it right now looks way better than our old store did. So pretty soon you'll be able to get some stuff off the store. So let's talk a touch about log entries, and then we're going to bring Derek Revere, our programming lead, in here, and we're going to talk about the engine a little bit, show you guys some stuff, and then we will actually dive into the feature itself and show you images of the feature. And maybe if everyone's super nice, we can play some videos of things that we made. I'm kidding. We're going to do that regardless, but please be nice. All right. So also, we do have super chats going, and I think I already saw one what ways back. And because we're on this little program here, I can do this. I can go like that. Character jumping up and down saying #1 fan. I feel like is that an emoji that comes through like that? I don't know. I'm not sure. But super sticker, thank you. Apparently our #1 fan. Very cool. So we do have super chats up. If there's something on your mind that's just you got to get out like that, please do. Okay, I feel like that was all of them. I want to try and stay on top of those. So guys, what are log entries? Let's talk about it, shall we? I spent all this time doing stuff like this. Let's talk about it. And then this is still here. Yay, technical difficulties. Okay, so log entries. What are log entries? So log entries, as we've mentioned in the past, they're the means by which you collect every bit of information that Titanic, Honor and Glory has to offer. When you find a log entry littered about the ship, when you find one, it will be added to your log book. The log book is an item that you will carry around with you in tour mode. And by exploring Titanic and finding these entries, they will all be added to this book. And as you search the ship, the book will get more and more filled with this incredible information that a lot of it is stuff that some Titanic experts know by heart, but a lot of this stuff is going to be news to everybody. There's so much about Titanic that we're so lucky enough to have historians and have the resources that we do to pull all this Titanic knowledge into one place. So the main activity of tour mode will basically be, if you so choose, is exploring Titanic and searching for things that you haven't seen before, or things that you don't know what that does, or you've never seen what that was about. You've seen it in pictures, but never wondered what it was. And then on your quest, to fill this logbook with entries, you'll unlock things. If you find all of the entries of this type, you'll unlock this little reward. And we're going to talk about rewards one day in the future. We have some pretty fun things planned to incentivize the searching for these entries, which is going to be fun. The whole point of this log entry business is to bring Titanic's story to the forefront of the game, as opposed to what we had planned in the past, which was massive dramatic storyline kind of stuff. You could almost call this story mode, because we're going to be telling the story of Titanic, and we won't call it story mode because that's also planned. But we will be bringing Titanic's story to the forefront, where it should have been this whole time. And yes, this is geared towards Titanic fans and Titanic enthusiasts, but I actually think it's going to serve even better the newbies, the people who just get this game because it looks interesting and they come in for the first time not really knowing anything, or young people who don't really know the story of Titanic like a lot of us do. Because I think we all remember that moment when we heard that one fact about Titanic when we were like 10 or whatever, when you're young or old or whatever, and you read something and it just blows your mind. And the rest of your life, you will be thinking about Titanic. We've all had that moment. And this log entry business will be the source of that for so many people, we hope. So hopefully there's a whole new rush of Titanic enthusiasts in the world when these log entries arrive in your home. Okay, so that's what we're going to get into, but let's now bring in, we have a special guest. He is our programming lead for Titanic Honor and Glory. He's a member of the team you have not met in our live streams just yet. So here he is. Let's do this. This is Derek Revere.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. This is my favorite part of the stream, where you and I pretend like we haven't been talking all day.
Right. Or the last few days, for that matter.
Exactly. My apologies to Derek for the technical difficulties. I'm sure it was a lot of fun to just be thrown to the wolves like that with when things just don't work. But this is working, and we're live. People can hear you, I assume. So why don't you tell everybody who you are, where you're from, how you got into Titanic, and how you joined this lovely team?
Yeah, so my name's Derek Revere. I live in Ontario, Canada, which is cold half of the year, but right now is not. So, yeah, so I'm the lead programmer. I'm also the Unreal Engine lead. I joined back in February, I believe, around the time that Dominic joined as well. So my main responsibility in the project is basically, as the lead programmer, I'm ultimately responsible for the gameplay aspects of it, as well as managing the other programmers on the team. So yeah, like I'm working on the log entries. So I got into Titanic when I was really young. I'd say start when I got a Titanic model from my grandma for my birthday one year. I don't remember how old I was, but it was just a very simple, basic, crappy little Titanic model. But I had so much fun with it, pretending like it was the real thing. A few years later, I got James Cameron's Titanic Explorer, the 3-disc set for PC, and I used that and played that so many times. I eventually wore out disc 2, which is, if I remember correctly, is where most of the film scenes are.
Mm-hmm.
It's just never died since then, my interest. So when I got the opportunity to join this team, I took it. I mean, who can say no to help make such a an interactive experience, and like the idea of being able to go back in time and explore the ship as it was in virtual reality. I mean, it's just awesome.
Yeah. No, I think that sounds like a similar story to myself and a lot of the people on the team. I mean, sort of, I think everybody who's on this team has had that moment of hearing about the project or being asked to join the project, and it's like, that's the easiest decision I've ever made. We're going to show you guys a lot of stuff today, Derek and I. The two things we're going to show are these concept images that our new UI designer named Luke McHugh, he has been he joined the team like 2 weeks ago maybe, and we were kind of settling in on this log entry idea and like how would we present this to all of you. And he just started playing around with images, and every single day just blowing our minds with these images, which are amazing. So we're going to show you guys some of those, but also Derek is going to walk around in Engine, in the engine itself. A heads up about both of these things. Neither of these are gameplay or final or even semi-final images. As you'll see, the in-engine stuff that Derek's going to show, it's just a basic like little deck space with some rooms and stuff, just to show you what he does. We're not prepared to show you guys the ship and have him walk around on the ship. This is like a little playground he made to just show the basics of what he works on and how he works on it. And then the concept images that Luke is making, they're images that are sort of composites of images of Demo 3 and some things that he's making just in a program, so he can form with our input the appearance of the game and the appearance of menu screens and the appearance of log entries. And then Derek can take them when we settle on them, which we are still fine tuning. Derek can take it and make it full out, because from what I understand, Derek, it would be way more difficult for you to take our constant daily edits and update the engine than for him to edit and take our requests and our notes, and then for you to make the final version. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like Luke's work is totally changing my life for sure. Like the any of these small changes that I'd have to make in the engine, like you'll see in a little while, I'll show you the work that's gone into just making the logbook sort of like follow your camera and rotate with your camera. Like it's dozens of nodes and blueprint nodes.
Yeah.
And so if sometimes the thing is, if you make one change somewhere, it can have a ripple effect and require you to change a ton of little things. So having the work that Luke's doing, to have these examples that I can just take and directly replicate for the game is super useful.
Great. You guys you're probably seeing some super chats are appearing on the bottom of the screen. We had a question about a lobster tank in the galley, and I believe Matt answered that. So that one's good. And thank you all for everybody who's posting them. And then this last one, we just got a question from Jared F. I'll put it up again. This says, will there be any Easter eggs such as nods to Adventure at a Time or past movies? Absolutely. We have a little document called Easter eggs that we like to have little things, but
it's getting long. It's getting very long.
It's a long list, and we have to go through and we have to have a discussion about some of them because they're a little crazy sometimes. I think there is such thing as a sensible Easter egg, and then there's such thing as a little too much. But especially if you bring up Adventure Out of Time, Adventure Out of Time is the reason that I've centered my life around Titanic and the reason that I'm here. So I love Adventure Out of Time with all of my heart, and there will absolutely be stuff from that game in our game. So that's that. So Derek, maybe now would be a nice time for you to hop into the engine. People can see sort of what you are looking at on a daily basis here. Let me throw it on. There we go. Let's see. I can make it a little bit bigger. There we go. And we're in the bottom corner. So this is just show people around like what you're doing. And because I personally know nothing about what you do in terms of programming and stuff. And it's very fascinating to me.
Yeah. So welcome to my void. This is my little playpen. I'm the reason why I have it in a level like this is because it's very high. The performance is very high. I don't have to deal with other assets that from the main project that and possibly mess something up, or even just dealing with the lower performance. Things like this I can very easily measure any change in performance because of different ways that I program things. So yeah, I'll just jump in here. There's a few things that we've already. How about I'll show you a little bit about what I work on. So I don't know if you can see this. This is just an example. So in Unreal Engine, this is what's called a blueprint. So Unreal Engine has two main ways of programming. The first is with C++ code, and there is a fair bit of code involved with this already. I think the total of actual lines of code is roughly about 4,000 lines of code. I didn't write most of it. It's a lot of it is just stuff that comes with the engine. Mostly the character, a lot of the character logic. We're reusing some of that and then building off of it for ourselves. But blueprints are a sort of a visual way of programming. So in Unreal Engine, they're very powerful. We can pretty much do anything with blueprints that we could do with actual code, although there are advantages and disadvantages. And there are some performance implications on certain things. So this is very quick and it's very easy to iterate on. So especially for early tests and sort of visualizations, this is an absolutely fantastic tool. And in the future, we may migrate some of these things to code if necessary. But for the time being, this is where I'm doing most of my work. Yeah, so I'll just give you an example of something that I've been. Would we like to show off the maybe the logbook now?
Yeah, please do.
So here is the logbook. I will pick it up, and so this is the player's logbook, and right now it's just filled with some lorem ipsum blank text, and so this is where, as you're walking around the ship and interacting with things, you will see the information of the entries. So rather than having it come up on your screen, we had this great idea that we were talking about over the last few weeks of integrating it into a book that the player holds and carries around, which I think is a really cool idea. And yeah, so when when you're not using it, it just stows away. And
And something to keep in mind for everybody who's watching, everything we talk about with log entries, with the book, we're going to start talking about things that will appear on screen as you walk into different places. All of this will be turn offable. If you just want to explore Titanic and you don't really want to deal with anything, you just want to be alone, you can do that. I'm one of those people. I play very complicated games and I just turn the HUD off completely. I just want to experience it as cleanly as possible. So the logbook, you never have to look at it if you don't want to, but we think you will want to, because it's going to be pretty cool, as we will see when we get to some of these images. We get a lot of questions. Well, first of all, Derek, how about this? When you picked up the book, there was a little bit of a highlight to the book.
Yeah. So I'll show it on these doors because it's the same effect. Mm-hmm. But basically, to show things that are interactable, we have I just added a slight little effect around. So it's very hard to see, but there is a little bit of a stroke line around it.
Yeah.
When you look at it, as well as the whole item just blinks. So that's just an easy way to tell the player what is interactable. There's going to be a ton of things you can interact with, and some things that you can't. So it's kind of cool to walk around as we're adding things and see quickly and visually see something new that we've added. And these doors do work. So,
there's something
yeah.
that you couldn't do in any of our demos.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. So all objects that you interact with will have this little effect.
Quick interruption. We had a super chat I forgot to mention. Will Smokestack 4 be accessible in the final game? Of course. Any area that a human being could access should be accessible. And Jake asked, will Rose's paintings be one of those Easter eggs? That's the point of the Easter egg. I can't tell you. It's like a magician telling their tricks. You can't talk about the Easter eggs, and they're not Easter eggs anymore. So we will see. We will see, Jake.
I have one quick thing to mention about this yet.
Sure.
This effect, like the book, will be disabled. Like, you can go into the settings and disable it.
Right. Yeah.
So if you just want to walk on the ship and get the highest level of immersion, you can disable it. So this is not a required effect.
Right, but you can still open the door. You just,
absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
It will still be interactable if you hit the right keys. It's just you may not get the prompt. You have the option to turn off the queue.
Right, and the best thing with this highlighted effect is in terms of things like log entries, where you might have a couple log entries in the same area, which we'll talk about that. You'll know what you're about to click on. You're not just like hopefully clicking on the right thing. So we get a lot of questions about the ability to, will we be able to run? Will we be able to crouch? Will we be able to jump? All this sorts of things. Do you want to talk about that? Oh, there we go. Question answered.
Yes, we are going to have a run and crouch system as well as jump. Makes sense. We had, I believe, all three in Britannic.
I don't know if we had a crouch in Britannic. I think
we may not have had a crouch.
We definitely did have jump. I don't even know if we had a run in Britannic, to be honest. Maybe we did, but
it's I mean, it certainly makes sense because especially when we get later to the sinking mode, we want to give you, the player, the sort of realistic options for movement. So
right,
like, it doesn't really make sense if the ship is sinking underneath of you that you can only stroll around at a leisurely pace.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's, I'll just show you, and this is not, I can give you a specific example of some of my work, but the crouch probably took the most work to implement. So these two boxes here are the crouch system, and it's basically what this one does is essentially checks if there's something above you. So if I'm crouching under here and I release the key, I'm not flying through this object, as you'd otherwise would. So it's just a little bit of basically does a trace, like a direct line trace or a capsule trace from the top of my head to whatever's above me. And if it's within a certain distance, then it does not allow you to stand up and smash your head on the ceiling. And this one is basically just an animation. So it's literally a timeline with a curve on it. And this is the time of the animation. It's a quarter of a second, and the height, and it also has a walk speed. So when you're crouching, you're slower. Oops. And it's, so this is a lot of math. It just does a bunch of math. It needs to interpolate between the walking speed and the crouching speed, and your height when you're just standing normally and when you're crouching. Programming, a lot of programming is math. I wasn't the greatest math student, and I mean, now doing all this stuff, I've been doing programming stuff for a while, but I guess I find myself picking up all these math things and oh yeah, I learned that in school, and well, it's coming in handy now. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is so far beyond my abilities of understanding, and I'm sure a lot of people watching feel that way. I mean, I play a game, I'll play like Planet Coaster or something, and that's just like even the stuff that they allow you to do and can create. I can't deal with that stuff. That's why I'm creative director and not
Right.
anything else. So we got a question, a $5 question. I don't know the answer to this, so someone else will have to answer it. Will this game support native 8K resolution at launch? That seems
Ooh.
a little far off, but
Technically, yes. I don't think there's any reason you can't do 8K at Unreal Engine or with Unreal Engine, other than the fact that you're going to need an absolute monster
right,
PC.
exactly.
So, and I don't even. Last I checked, I thought 8K displays were still like $5,000 or $10,000.
Yeah.
So, if you have it and you have a computer that can run it, I would say sure, why not?
Well, that's good to know. I'll get saving on my money so I can get an 8K.
Sell my car for that.
I think I don't think I'm even at 4K yet with the things that I have. Anyway, cool. So we've seen some stuff here. One thing that I do want to bring up is that we also, Derek and I also had a fun discussion the other night, just talking about controls and and this is just a primo example of things that we are working on over the next 6 months. It's easy to think that we're, why don't we just release the Forecastle deck now? It's basically done, stuff like that. Like the other day, we had I called you to talk about the stream. We were going to talk about what we wanted to talk about in the stream. And we spent maybe 2 hours just discussing things like, what should the button for the logbook be? Should it be you click L to open the logbook, but is L too far away from your left hand? It really should be something near your left hand. Okay, B, that's still kind of too far away. Like these discussions, they take so much time to plan out what is the best experience for the gamer. And luckily, we have Luke on our team now, who is also, he does our UI stuff, so that user interface stuff. So that's like menus and how the menus appear and how the gamer interacts with stuff like that, but also UX, which is user experience. So stuff far beyond that. Just how everything is all the information is taken in by the player, so we can discuss. For example, when a log entry is available to you, should you be able to click on it to add it to your log, or should it be the L key, or should it be, there's so much discussion that needs to take place so we make the smoothest and best experience. I think we've all played video games where maybe they didn't put as much time into that, and so everything's just not intuitive, and you keep pressing the wrong button because like, why is it not that? But the other cool thing to mention is you can remap all these buttons also. Everything that we talked about, you could just throw it out the window and remap your own thing. Let's see.
Yeah, I think one of the main thoughts that we had regarding controls was to go in a direction that everything you can do with the mouse, you can also do with a keyboard, with maybe the exception of actually looking around, and that everything on the keyboard is within reach of one hand.
Right.
And part of the thought was for accessibility purposes. Some people, would not be able to just keeping everything together in one spot makes sure that everyone can easily reach it, and that you're not moving across the keyboard. You don't need two hands on the keyboard, things like that. So,
yeah, cool. Is there anything else you can show us in this? Perhaps the one thing we talked about that I thought was interesting, and this kind of goes into your other job with us here, and that is that you're also the Unreal Engine lead. So you just kind of have the most knowledge about how that all works. And through that, we were discussing the lighting on Titanic and how everybody knows, the 1997 movie and other movies where, because it's a movie, all the lighting is super bright, especially in the 97 movie. But we were talking the other day that would probably not be the case. And that's something that you can kind of help us with.
right. Yeah. I mean, one thing, and I guess my demo has disappeared that I did the other day, so I will recreate it very quickly live. Um, so one of the things that that's really cool about the lighting system in Unreal is it's all physically based. So all the values that calculate what the light looks like are based on real life values. So, for example, if you look here and where my mouse cursor is, the intensity it's in candelas. I can switch it to lumens as well, and so that's a real figure based on real lights. And the fall off, it's inverse squared fall off, so it falls off in the same way that real light would. And I could have a color temperature as well. So the lights on Titanic were probably around 3,000 Kelvin for in terms of the color, and you can see very quickly how much a difference between 3,000 and 6,500
Wow.
makes.
Yeah.
So, and brightness as well. Like even in some of our older demos, the brightness of the lights is probably very high. Like I mentioned to James the other day, there's a reason why there's so many light bulbs in the dome. Like that, if you've seen a picture that sort of looks into the dome light, there are so many light bulbs underneath of that. Um, and so one thing that we want to do is give you an option in the settings that goes between kind of like a cinematic lighting setup, which is
Right.
similar to what you'd see in our previous demos, and then a realistic setup, which would all the light settings would be realistic to what the lights actually would have been, and would likely look a fair bit darker and redder than what's in the demos. But
And along with that, for those who aren't aware, there are things that just have happened in Titanic media where things like the funnels are always lit from underneath, like big spotlights on the funnels, like it's a modern ship. Modern ships do that, and buildings have that uplighting. But Titanic did not have that. The funnels at night, the only way you would see the funnels at night is light bouncing out of the grand staircase dome, or like the engine room shaft, the tank room skylights. That would put a little light on the funnels, but for the most part, the funnels would be pitch black at night. And so with this idea of having cinematic lighting versus real life lighting, you could have either. We could have the lighting that you may be used to, that looks really nice for a nice screenshot. But for those of you who want that real life experience, that they want to really see what it must have, what it would have really looked like, you can also have that like darker, more yellow looking light, and things like the funnels not being lit. We had a question: when you go into the wireless room, will there be sounds of the wireless in use? That is a good question for, I'll put it up again. That's a good question for another stream that we're going to get into some other features that we haven't talked about at all, and we're not going to talk about for a little bit. We're going to wait till we get some of the ship going, and then we can talk about how we are tackling things like that, sound design and whatnot. But there will be, I think, very clever sound design going on. So perhaps the answer to that question is yes, but depends on the mode you're in also. And then this question, speaking of lighting, is there any plans to add ray tracing and HDR support? That is a Derek question, if I ever heard one.
So the short answer is yes. There is plans. I like we've been trying we've been wanting to work on that and test it out. I'm still waiting for a GPU that can do ray tracing, so that's unfortunately. I mean, it's a visual thing that's not. It's not the. It doesn't have the biggest priority right now for us. So, but it is something that we definitely want to do. I think it would look absolutely amazing with ray tracing. So for sure, as soon as I get the chance, I will be testing it.
Cool.
Now I saw a question. I think it was down under Thunder, asked about light switches in public spaces. I don't have the exact question. I will give you this example.
Oh, we got a little.
So that's been coded in already. So if that answers your question, that will be
Oh,
possible
I
for
see. I
every
see the.
public space.
I found the question. Yeah. So I think it's, I know you can interact with any light switches in cabins, but is it possible to also turn on and off lights in public spaces like grand staircase, reception room, dining room? So I think that just depends on where those light switches are and whatnot. They are, because those lights would be able to turn off. So we will, however it was done, we will do it. From what I understand, there's like a box, like a, not like a fuse box or anything, but yes, let's just say yes, because that is
there's
true.
panel switches,
Panels. That's
panels
what I was
with switches in it for public areas.
Yeah. So that's
some
how
of it's
you would do that.
complicated, but we will, to the best of our ability, recreate what those switches do, including the layouts of, there's. They won't have all, like a single room won't have all the lights on one switch, for example.
Right.
So for as much information as we have and can recreate, we will do it the way that it was on the ship.
Right. Yeah, you can. That is the one thing we can absolutely guarantee. If we have an electric plan that shows what each switch did, then we will make sure that those switches do that. Anything else we can show? And before we talk about log entries, we should have titled this stream "Programming and Log Entries" because this stuff is super interesting, and I want to keep talking about it. Anything else we can go through?
I believe that's everything that I wanted to show off at this point. Other than, I guess I could just say we wanted to show it off. It's not far enough for that, but when I walk into this room, a little prompt comes up in the bottom right.
Right.
That's essentially the spatial log entry,
right, which we're going to jump into. So,
which is extremely basic right now, and it does play an audio clip, but you can't hear it from here. But the basic programming for that has been completed. It just needed a little bit more time to polish, and it didn't quite make it for this stream. But you will see it in future streams.
Right, and you will see the concept of it in a couple seconds when I pull it up. So, thank you, Derek, for showing us all of this. I'm going to take your little playground level off the screen so we can move on to log entry stuff. Matt says we don't have electric wiring plan. What are we, gods? So if I know the team well as I think I do, what that basically will mean is we will do as much research as we can to see how Harlan and Wolf built their ships, who did the electric work, if we can find anything like on another ship that it was common for this to do this and this. If we don't know something, we gather the information from elsewhere, from that time period, from that shipping company, to form the best version that we could possibly give you. So, all right, I'm gonna take you off the screen, and now it's just gonna be you and me. All right. In fact, I'm gonna go down to just me here, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about log entries. Actually, no, I'll leave. I think if I take you off, we won't be able to hear you. So, well, I'll take you off for just a second. We got a big one here. Let's see. Yes. Hold on. So many things happening at once. Super chat 100 GPBP. I don't know what that is, but it's 100. So thank you to this person. For the tour mode alpha, will the ship be in motion or in dock, i.e. when we eventually get to the engine room, will the machinery be in motion? So that's a good question. At the moment, we are modeling it at Belfast at the fitting out wharf, and that's where it will stay, at least for the free alpha. When we take it to sea is, we will see when that makes the most sense. If we it's sort of up to us. I mean, obviously we want to take it to sea as soon as we can, but if it is at sea and you can go to the engine room, you can assume that the engines will be in motion because we will be at sea. So that would make sense. Everything we do, we try to make it make the most sense, believe it or not. Okay, everybody, we've talked about programming. That's great. Let's move on to what the actual topic of the day was, which is log entries. And we have, let me just make sure I'm covering everything. Oh yeah, so the process of how we sort of got to this point was basically, and just to give you a glance into how this game development has worked, at least for us. I can't speak for other gaming companies, but log entries was an idea that was had when we shifted our direction away from what we were doing before to a more focused on the ship vision. Log entries was an idea. I brought it to the team, and we brainstormed for weeks and weeks, talked about it. Should we do this? Should we do that? And let's cut that. Oh, this makes more sense. It used to be called so many other things. We changed the name a bunch of times as we slowly narrowed it down to what it sort of is now. Then once we kind of had a pretty good concept, me and Derek sat down for the first time, and we had a good chat about what are the actual capabilities of this. I went to him and said, look, I don't know, the programming of things. So is this even possible? I don't want to tell all of you that we're going to do this, and this, and then turn out, I don't know. But Derek was not only like, oh, it's so possible, but actually we could probably do a little bit more. So the feature got more intricate and more exciting. And then Luke joined the team, and Luke took it and ran with it and brought us these visuals that we, over the last 2 weeks, have been refining down to these images you're going to see. So so that's how we got to where we are. There are 4 types of log entries. There is a 5th, as I've mentioned before. We will not be talking about it today, because it is far enough away that I would not feel comfortable telling you about it, because who knows about it, But gone are the days of talking about things too far in advance, because who knows what will happen with it. But I'm pretty confident there will be a 5th log entry. But at the moment, there are 4, and at least for the alpha, there will be 4. If there is a 5th, it will happen down the road. So 4 log entries. We've talked about 2 of them in the past, and we will talk about the other 2 today. But the first log entry is, of course, as Derek just mentioned, spatial entries. So a spatial entry is every single room in Titanic, every space, deck space, paint storeroom. Somebody brought that up the other day and was very insistent that be included in the game, which it will be. The top of the smokestack, the crow's nest, the tank top. That might even be a couple different entries depending on things down there. So every space that could be a discernible room of some sort would have a log entry associated with it. So when you walk into a room, in the bottom right corner, you will see the name of that space. This is something you could turn off if you don't want to pay attention to that. But as you walk from space to space, it will tell you where you are. And when you walk into a space for the first time, like say you walk into the grand staircase for the first time, you'd see grand staircase in the bottom right corner. And underneath it, it would say add to log. And by clicking the button associated with that, it would say what the button is. You click that button and your logbook would open. You'd hear a little pencil scratch. And right there in front of you in your hands would be the information about this room. And as somebody did ask if there would be voiceover involved, that's the other component of log entries that we haven't talked about yet, is the voiceover. So every log entry will be the information in the book, and then you will also hear a voiceover give much more detail about the room. Whether or not that voiceover appears in the logbook, we're still sort of deciding upon. It just depends on the look, and players will have people test it out. And should the voiceover be in the book? Does that make it too much about reading? There's lots of decisions yet to be made, but you will definitely hear a voiceover. So yes, let's look at our first little image here. So this is something that Luke made that's just so exciting to see for us. Just to lead into it, you walk into the grand staircase, beautiful grand staircase. It says grand staircase in the bottom right corner, add to log. And then you click that, and let me pull it up. Here we go. So this is our first image of a spatial entry. So you can see the grand staircase in the background. And again, this is demo 3, the image in the background. So this is not final game anything at all. But this is a concept that now Derek can take and put into the engine that we are working on. So let's just analyze this image. So we got the grand staircase, that out of focus look because you're looking at the book. Super, super important to me. I love that sort of thing in games. In the bottom right corner, you can see the controls for this book. Use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. You can turn the page and you can close the log. These are, of course, subject to change. I already have thoughts about what we could do to it to make it a little bit better. But this is the fun part about the collaboration of things, is slowly refining. You can see a little cursor there to the right of the book. This is such a cool idea. This is something that I think we were talking about yesterday. We were talking about cursors and, should it change into that classic hand that most computers have when you can select something. And I believe Matt DeWinkler, he suggested that classic turn of the century advertisement thing that everybody had back then. So that's a cool little cursor there. And then, of course, the logbook itself. We have a sketch of the grand staircase that is subject to change. I have some other ideas about what might be the visual component drawn there. But that looks really nice. And it says forward grand staircase. Decks, has all the decks, first class, the style, Louis the 14th, I believe. Wait, what is the? I'm not good with the Roman numerals, you guys. And then others. There's so many. We actually had this discussion today about what actual style is the grand staircase. There's so much. There's that. There's the William and Mary paneling. There's so much going on. So that will need some refining as to how we display the styles. And then square footage is well over 10,000. It's such a large piece of Titanic. So some things that you would learn from these log entries when you go into varying rooms. They wouldn't all be those topics. They would be things like what the room was used for. For example, the forward well deck, which will be in one of the first releases of our free alpha. Main use for that would be, it's a cargo handling area. There's the cargo hatches, there's cargo cranes. There's the derrick, the cargo derrick that comes off of the mast. The whole forward well deck is a cargo area, but when at sea, it's a promenade for third-class passengers, mostly third-class men, because that was the part of the ship that they were in. So you could learn about what the room is used for, square footage, I suppose, style, decor, things that you can find inside. And then the voiceover would provide an extra level of information, like what took place in this room on the voyage, what took place in this room during the sinking, what is the status of it in the wreck? Is it still there? Has it crumbled away? There's so much that can be talked about. How does this differ from Britannic and Olympic? All those sorts of things. So yes, for the grand staircase, we know a lot of these things, but there are so many rooms in Titanic that even the great Titanic enthusiasts watching right now, there are rooms that you probably have no idea what they're for. And you'd walk in and go, what is this room for? And then you got your little log entry. And then the cool thing about all these log entries is if you come back into the room, if you've already added it to your log, you already got that little achievement, you walk into the grand staircase, you would still see the name, and you could pull out your logbook and it would open right to that page and you could read about it again. And then you could have the voiceover play again if you'd like. And as always, you can turn all of this off, or you can just click the logbook shut and the voiceover stops and you don't have to listen to anything. You can just explore Titanic at your leisure. So that is that. Let me just make sure I'm not missing any super chats, because I haven't looked in a little while. I apologize if I missed something. Okay, there was that one. I think I only missed one. We got from Monskar, super chat 25. Thank you so much, Monskar. So that's a spatial entry. That is going to be the easiest entry to find, obviously. Every time you go to a new space, there's going to be one of those. Some spatial entry examples for the free alpha would be forecastle deck, forward well deck, forward B deck, forward B deck area. I don't know. We'd have to come up with a good name for that. Maybe there probably already is one. But the forward B deck cabins, each cabin would have its own entry with the information about who stayed in that room, what's the style of the room. There's so many beautiful different styles of each room. The grand staircase, of course, midships cabins, the galleys start coming into play. The every bathroom, every water closet, the library, the aft open air deck space on B deck, aft well deck, poop deck, all of that. Each one would have its own. And like I said, they'd be the easiest to find, of course, but that's why we have a whole bunch of other ones. So let's move on to our next log entry type, and that is physical log entry. So this is what we've talked about a lot already, actually, and that is every single object, everything you look at would have a log entry attached to it. The intensity level, I don't know what it will be yet. In my dreams, it's literally every single object. With that count, the forecastle deck alone would have like 50 of them. So we're going to have to see what we want to do with it. And that kind of has to come down to play testing. If there's so many of them, is it discouraging to gamers? Is it annoying to you to just have so many things going on? If you've ever played an open world game that has so many side quests that it's just overwhelming and you don't even want to do them anymore, we don't want that. So it doesn't always come down to what are we capable of doing. It's what do we want to do? What do we actually think is fun? And that's something that everybody on the team is going to be great at helping with, because we're all gamers. But yeah, so the physical entries, there's going to be a lot of them. It'll probably, definitely be the most common log entry type. So what you might learn about these items when you interact with an item, you would see what its name is, obviously what it does, what it's made of, what the manufacturer who built it, what its main purpose. I think I already said that. How big is it? How heavy is it? All those sorts of topics. And then the voiceover would provide a deeper level of information, including things like how did it factor into the sinking? Has it been brought up from the wreck? Are there any of these things traveling the country? Can you buy a recreation of this thing on our store? I suppose there's so much information beyond that. Is this object on Olympic or Britannic, or is there a photo of this? That sort of thing. So let's look at the visual, because I know that's what you all want to see anyway. So as an example, you walk up, you're on the forecastle deck, you walk up to the windlass, the big mechanism that lowers the anchors. Sitting on top are those massive chains, which in ship terms are known as anchor cables. And so you focus on it, it highlights, as Derek showed us, and you click add to log, and pops open your log book. And here it is. Oh, I should get rid of the super chat. Hold on. Hold, please. So this is our next little image. So you can see the windlass behind the image. The anchor chain would be highlighted, and then this would pop open. So again, we have those beautiful looking controls in the bottom right. I am personally a minimalist person when it comes to controls, really anything, because I do want us to stay out of your way as much as we can. If you guys can just explore Titanic with just minimal help from us on how to interact with stuff. I don't like games that are, every time you look at something, there's a huge prompt that says, press X to interact with this, so we're trying to keep it minimalistic. There's that wonderful cursor that we have. And then you can see this entry. It says anchor cables, wrought iron links, and steel studs. It's really small for me. I can't really read it, actually. And its manufacturer is Noah Hingley and Sons Limited. And its length is 165 fathoms, and its width is 50 tons. So these are just ways to inform you about this object and what went into making it, that sort of thing. And there's that drawing. That's actually not something we made. That's a diagram of the attachments to the anchor cables that would attach the anchor on the end, and we would definitely mess with that and make our own, perhaps. And you can see on the right, same with the spatial entry, I forgot to mention, on the right, that page is blank. There are more entries to be found. And once you find all of them, all those empty pages will be gone. But the voiceover could tell you so much more about these anchor cables, how they were dropped. And then, of course, perhaps there will be part of this book that will tell you how what steps you would need to take to drop anchor, because there is a lot that goes into action. It's not just like a button you press and then the anchor drops. There's a lot of mechanisms that need to be done. So perhaps the logbook would be how you see that take place. So yes, I'm seeing somebody say they love the pencil illustrations. They're some of my favorite things. They look like they're from a patent, that show in very basic terms what the measurements are. I think they're fascinating, and I love looking at them. And this one's really cool, of these anchor cables. Very, very cool. So that is a physical entry. And like I said, these will be in abundance. There will be quite a few of them. In fact, in the background of this image, I mean, there's so many objects in the background, in the out of focus background behind the entry. So much to talk about, so much to learn about, and so much for us to program. That's all Derek. So let's move on to our next, because now we've now talked about both entries that you guys should, if you've watched our streams, you should have already heard about, because I have mentioned those two log entries have been mentioned before. Let me just check on the super chat. In fact, I'm going to bring Derek in for a second. Derek, what do you think of these entries so far? While I look through super chats,
I think they're very, very cool. I'm very excited to get to actually implement these in game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. When I, it's funny when I sort of brought this idea to Derek, and we had all been talking about it as a team, but we had a talk, you and I, and it's like the first time you and I actually talked, really, just the two of us, and I was just like, look, I'd really love for a lot of these things to be animated. I mean, if you can lower an anchor in real life, why shouldn't you be able to, go up to the compressor, release the compressor, take out the pin and take the chain stoppers off the front, and then open the brake, and then it goes out. Is that possible? And you were like, yeah, let's do it. It's why, I know that we have toned the game down so we can actually handle it without some massive investor, but I still want us to push ourselves as much as we can. And thankfully your response was like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to point this out to everybody. I think it's important to mention that my job is like, I'm working on the programming side of things, and what I'm doing has no effect or little effect on modeling the ship and actually putting that in game. So while I'm putting all these features in, everyone else who would ever be modeling the ship is still doing that. It's right. The ship's still being worked on, and the focus is always going to be on the ship first. So if there is somewhere that I am needed that would get the ship itself into the game, we're going to focus on that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which also means that we may not have all of the interactions or all of the features in an area when we release it in the alpha, because depending on the speed of things, I may have, like, certain areas are going to require a lot of work, other areas are going to require very little work,
right?
And the thing about a lot of things I'm doing, it's like the doors, for example, that I showed off. I've pretty much in programming that door, I've pretty much done the whole ship. So any door in the ship that works like that door is just a very small amount of work to actually get all of those doors programmed. So,
right. So it'll sort of snowball. It'll, it becomes easier the more you program things.
Yeah. Exactly, and especially in the interior, like in the exterior, there are a lot of unique machines and other things that are going to have very unique animations and interactions. While in the ship, a ton of doors, ton of lights, some unique things, but overall, it's like you said, it's going to be a snowball effect. for
Yeah.
sure.
Got a super chat from Jared F. I believe this is maybe Jared's second one. I'm not sure. When you go into staterooms that were occupied, will there be brief descriptions of the person or persons who were in that room, where they were from, where they did for a living? We're about to talk about that. I'll answer that in a second. And as I already said, when you go into B17, you will, part of the spatial entry would be, I don't know, we haven't talked about this, but it would say probably occupant and then the name of the person who was in that room that we know of. We don't know where everybody was. There's a very limited very limited knowledge about who was in what room. But we will see. So thank you for that. Did I put that up on screen? I did, right? Anyway, if I didn't, that was it. So there, thank you, Jared F. Yes, I did. I put that up. Okay, so that's it for super chats. Let's talk about our next log entry. So this is the first log entry that we have never talked about in public before. The next type of log entry is part log entry, part collectibles. We need to talk about collectibles for a second. So along with these entries, there will also be collectibles, and we've talked about it before, but there will be countless things littered about the ship for you to find and collect. Where they go is something we need to talk about later, but you will collect them. You'll have a bit of I don't even want to say that out loud. So you'll have, I'm sorry, Derek, I left you up. I don't want you to feel like you have to be on screen with us. Okay. So collectibles will be all over the place. There will be some collectibles that are just items that we know were on Titanic. I mean, things that would have been around in that room or in that space. And some things that historically people mention all the time, the toy pig, the cane with the light in it, a pair of the missing binoculars in that cabinet, that the previous second officer locked. All those historical things will be there for you to collect and possibly learn a little bit about. But there will also be some, closer to the Easter egg side of things. Again, I don't want to talk about them because then they're not Easter eggs anymore. But things referencing older games and movies and stuff. Some fun stuff to find. But one of the things that you will be able to collect are photos. Littered around Titanic, there will be the photos that you have seen thousands of times. There's only a handful of them, photos of Titanic, on board Titanic. Matt did a wonderful video in the TU series. If you don't watch those videos, definitely do. Titanic University, all about the interior photos. There's only 30 something of them because the ship sank so quick. And if it weren't for Father Brown, we would have even less. So those photos will be scattered all around Titanic, and you will find them and you'll be able to collect them. And that's that. And if you collect all of them, there will be a reward. Great. But they also feed into our third log entry, which is visual entries. So if you have that photo and you go to the spot that it was taken and you line it up just right, you will be able to add that photo to your logbook, and you will be able to learn who took that photo, when was it taken, who's in the photo. There's a lot of photos with passengers and crew in the photo. Did they survive? Did they not? And just what's the story behind the person who took the photo and why were they taking it? There's a version of this where there are photos of Olympic and Britannic laying around as well, and you can learn the differences in this photo. Here's a photo of Olympic, and in it you can see some things that would not be on Titanic or things that were improved on Titanic. And then, of course, images of Britannic, which are, a lot of images of Britannic are the World War I hospital ship Britannic. And of course, if you've played Britannic, you know all about that stuff. So here's an example. You find in the boiler room, you find a photo of the Cafe Parisien, that beautiful photo of the cafe. It's like crystal clear if you've ever seen like a big blown up version of it. And the sun is coming in through the windows. It looks brand new, of course, because that's all it ever was. And you think to yourself, if you're a Titanic enthusiast, you know exactly where the Cafe Parisien is, and you'd recognize it in your sleep. But for some people, they would take a little bit of a hunt to try and find, where did I see that room with the ivy and where was that? And if you track down the spot and you find exactly where it lines up, you would be presented with the visual log entry. And here is what that looks like. So as you can see, there's the controls, there's the cursor, as we've talked about. You see the cafe in the background, and there's the photo of the cafe that was taken, as you can see, by Robert Welch, the Harlan and Wolff photographer in early 1912. Robert Welch would have taken photos of spaces on Titanic that were brand new, because if these spaces were on the Olympic, they already have photos of it. So the cafe was not on Olympic. This was added for Titanic. And so they would have wanted a nice photo for promotional sake, I assume, or just archival purposes. But as you can see, there is some text on the page. That would be sort of what the voiceover would say. This is, like I said, these images are very much in flux still. I don't know if the voiceover will appear on the page like that. Again, that comes down to play testing. Do people feel like they're reading too much and it's not as enjoyable as just listening to somebody? Because ideally, you could click this, you could add this to your log. The voiceover could start speaking, and you can walk around. You can leave the cafe as it plays, so you don't feel the need like you have to sit here and follow along. But as you can see, it reads. I actually can't see it myself. This screen is really small for me. It says, make it real big. Taken during Titanic's construction by the Harlan and Wolff photographer, this photo showcased the new cafe, which was not present on the already finished Olympic, which is what I already told you guys. But so these sets of visual log entries will give you deeper background to these famous photos and where they came from, and sort of travel back in time. Which brings us to this a really great idea that Derek had. We were talking the other day about this. So I'm going to bring you back in, Derek, about how, let me get rid of the image, how you envision, because all of these things are collaborative team effort, which is great about the sort of thing we got going on in this team, is everybody's submitting their ideas. And so tell everybody what you told me yesterday about how you think that these visual entries would present themselves.
Yeah. So when you first find that photo, because it'll just be the photo, like it won't, or you can hold the photo up, and when you walk into, just take the example of the Café Parisien, and you walk into the cafe with that photo, and as you've lined it up, when you line it up, you'll hear like a flash bulb sound. Your screen will flash white, and temporarily we'll change it so it like the colors on your screen. We can simulate a film camera in Unreal, so you'll be temporarily transported back in time for at least while the voiceover plays. So you get to see sort of the old version, how you would see it on a camera, except from your eyes. So it's just like temporarily transporting you back.
Right. It feels like you're walking around inside this photo.
Yeah.
And that gets more fun with images that have people in it. We got to talk about that as a team. Just because this is something that I think you've mentioned this before, but yesterday we really got into talking about it. So there's lots of decisions to be made, and that's the fun part about this process. I think the last 2 weeks have been my favorite part of this development so far, because we're really talking about the fun stuff. And so now, Derek presents this idea, and now, we talk to the team about it, and somebody says, oh, it'd be cool. What if you could do this? What if you could do that? I wasn't really planning on bringing this up, but I think it's fun and you guys deserve it. But one thing that we really want to do, we haven't really been able to solidify things, but we would like, when you find all of the visual entries, once you've unlocked all of them, each log entry will have its own reward when you find all of them, and the visual entry the reward will hopefully be Father Brown's camera and you will have the ability to then go around Titanic and take your own black and white photos. And of course, that will we'll have you guys post them online. We could have photo contests. It'll be great. We'll have a lot of fun with that. But that's one that we can consider that a big reveal. That's our first reward for finding log entries is Father Brown's camera, and the ability to take some artsy, old black and white photos. So very cool. So that brings us to our final log entry. And these 4 log entries will be what makes up this feature that will sort of populate our beautiful Titanic model. Certainly in the free alpha and the alpha, following that. And then the game as a whole, when the game is finished, I still think this will be one of our main features that people gravitate to this game for, because this is the history of Titanic, as I mentioned, is obviously incredible, and there's so much to talk about. And I think when you've found every entry that we have in the game, God knows how many there will be, and that log entry that log book is filled with these stories, you could very well consider yourself an expert among the best of them, because we're going to have so much going on. So let's talk about this last entry. So somebody brought up this question earlier. What about the passengers and whatnot? So that is the thing. We've talked about the spaces, we've talked about the objects, and now we have these visual representations of these spaces. What about the passengers? That's a big part of Titanic's story. So that brings us to testimonial entries. So as you walk around Titanic, you will find these testimonial cards. Much like the photos, you pick them up almost like a collectible, but you can add them to your logbook. And on these cards will be testimony of these survivors, and some non-survivors, if there are quotes previous to boarding. One that comes to mind is Captain Smith stating that he can't imagine any circumstance that would a ship would sink. Technology has gone too far for that. And then not long after, of course, he did not survive the sinking of Titanic. So there are quotes of non-survivors that are that pertain to Titanic. But most of them will be, of course, survivors in terms of the inquiries and the testimonies. And most notably, though, are some of the books that different survivors wrote. Lawrence Beasley, of course, everyone's escaping my mind. I've got too much going on up here right now. But all the other Archibald Gracie, did he write one? I think so. All those books about their experiences. There's so much testimony and beautiful words from these survivors who endured something that no one should ever have to endure. And I would love to find a way for you to be able to catalog that in your logbook as well. And so that's what these are. So this is where we have a little bit. Oh, and so when you collect these testimonies, things you might learn about these passengers would be their name, where they're from, where they were heading, did they survive, what lifeboat did they survive in, what was their cabin, what was their class, things like that. What did they do for a living? So you can learn about the people as well. One of the most effective parts of the demos we've made so far that I've always loved was going down the hallway and seeing names of people who lived in these cabins, who stayed in these cabins. And this is sort of an attempt at turning that up to 100, because it's going to be so much more emotional, honestly. You'll walk into Lawrence Beasley's cabin on D deck, and there will be a little card there. You pick it up, and you not only get to read what he said, but you will hear what he said read by an actor. Somebody will perform those words for you to hear in their own voice as best we can make it. So with that in mind, we have a video. Luke put together a clip. Again, this is not like from the game or anything. This is a demo 3 backdrop with the card that Luke made, and it's so beautiful. The way he remakes these stuff is fascinating to me. And a friend of mine, Alex Syak, provided the voice of Lawrence Beasley. And let's just show you guys. Hopefully you can hear this. So here is a conceptual idea of what the testimonial log entry might feel like.
Many brave things were done that night, but no more brave than by those few men playing minute after minute as the ship settled quietly lower and lower in the sea. The music they played served alike as their own immortal requiem, and their right to be recalled on the scrolls of undying fame.
How cool was that? I hope everybody could hear that nice and clear. Maybe I'll play it again at the end of the stream if people want to see that again, and of course we'll post it somewhere. But thank you to Alex for providing the voice of Lawrence Beasley for us. What Lawrence Beasley, if you guys have a chance to read his book, I think it's called Loss of the SS Titanic, maybe, but it's just his experience going through it. The way that he describes things is just breathtaking. It's very poetic. Like the way he just described the band going down with the ship is just so beautifully put. He has so many interesting observations. He was just such an I mean, he was a science teacher, so it makes sense. But just such great observation. Everything he talks about is fascinating. But because Lawrence Beasley has so much to say about Titanic, there wouldn't be just one card for him. He has so many great quotes. I'd want to have a bunch of them. So here's an image to go along with the first few that we looked at. This is an example of what your logbook might look like when you found a few of his quotes. So here is the log entry for Lawrence Beasley. So as you can see, we have the controls in the bottom right, as we have had the whole time. We have Lawrence Beasley, who's born on the 31st of December, 1877 in Derbyshire. Is that how you say that? Derbyshire? I don't want to say Shire because I know that's wrong. Second class, he was in D56, Toronto, Ontario, lifeboat 13. And then these are two of his quotes. We've just heard the one on the top right, written or read by Alex. But in the bottom left, I love this quote. I will read it to you now. It says, "Soon after noon, the whistles blew for friends to go ashore. The gangways were drawn, and the Titanic slowly moved down the dock to the accompaniment of last messages and shouted farewells of those on the quay. The whole scene was quiet and rather ordinary, with little of the picturesque and interesting ceremonial which imagination paints as usual in such circumstances." Sorry, I can't, it's very, very small on my little feed that I have, so it's hard to read. But yeah, just beautiful, beautiful words from Lawrence Beasley. He's really a great writer. And interesting to think about Titanic leaving in not the fanfare that it's always depicted as. You know, I'm sure people were waving, of course, but you know, it's much more of a gentle send off at Southampton. So, and as you can see, there's a little missing space there on the bottom right of another entry that you have yet to find. And what I think is fun about these, I will put myself back on the screen. What I think is fun about these is you might find a testimonial entry somewhere in the ship. Perhaps it's a Lawrence Beasley one about being on deck, and you'd find it in the spot that event would have taken place. That he has a whole part of his book about the second class library and how he spent Sunday in there because it was a cold afternoon, so most people were inside. And he talks about all the people he saw in the second class library, and that could be on a card in the second class library, so you can hear his words in the space that he was in. And then you'd see in the log entry that his cabin was D56. Oh, well, got to go there. So you go to D56, and then there's another one of his. So you can kind of piece together where his other testimonies might have been, and just explore second class spaces and look for others. So that's all 4 of our log entries. Again, there is a 5th log entry that is further down the road. We'll get to that one day. And those concept images were made by Luke. Just couldn't say more about his work. We love having him on the team, and just, I mean, you saw them; they're beautiful. I do have one more video to show you. If you were on our Facebook recently, you will have seen this. This is something else that Luke made, and just like the last video, I added some sound to it. This was put on our Facebook yesterday as a little teaser for today. This is just an example of a collectible, a historical-based collectible. No Easter egg here, really. Just to give you an idea of what it might be like to collect something. So let's take a look at this. Pretty cool. It's nice to see the things that we're making in a game form and not just beautiful visuals, which of course we have those in abundance, but how do you turn those beautiful visuals into a game? And so that's kind of what we're working on here. And so now we can take these images into the actual Titanic and make them actually happen. So I will bring Derek in again. Hi, Derek. Welcome back.
Hi.
While I look through super chats, what do you think of those videos that we've all been working on for the past few days?
I'm just so impressed. Like Luke's done so much work in such a short amount of time, and really, he deserves. He deserves all the recognition. That he can get for that, because they're just so beautiful.
Yeah, they're really nice. So now it's on to you to make them real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Make them, which I have the utmost confidence in that happening. So, someone just asked, I'm glad I saw this question. Is that a historical document or designed for the game? So the really cool thing about the log, the testimonials, it's actually, and this is a perfect example of why this collaboration that we're all having is so great, because I didn't even envision them happening this way. I imagined you'd walk in a room and, like the spatial entry, it would just say their name and you click the button and you can hear their voice. But I told this to Luke and he went, cool, I'll see what I can put together, and just returns with this image that is nothing like what I said, but it's so much better. He had this card, and it's based on those. They had those papers on Titanic, perhaps in the reading and writing room, where you could, they had stationery, and it says on them. I'll pull it up again. These guys here, they say on board RMS Titanic, and it had a line for the date. And it had the White Star Line flag there. So these are sort of inspired by the actual paper that people would be able to write home to their loved ones about. So that sort of brings this these testimonial entries into the real life of Titanic, which is the point. In any way that we can ground this, and that's a big thing with the logbook. I also didn't imagine the logbook actually being a book in your hand. Maybe it was like on-screen stuff. In fact, in the first few streams, I think that's how I described it, that it would be on-screen text, and you'd hear a voiceover. But working with all these amazing people on the team, it became a physical book. And then, Derek, in 5 minutes, he was like, I got the book. We're good. And then the cover was done. And then Luke is taking the book and putting things on it. It's just, everybody is so good at what they do, and I'm just blown away by them all the time. So that's all of that. The last thing I want to say about log entries, and then we're done for the day. We're going to do questions, of course. One thing I'd love to do with these log entries involves all of you guys. If we've released some spaces and you're looking at an entry and you see a mistake, there's bound to be some, because there's going to be a lot of them. It might be a too many zeros on a big number. It might say 10,000 and it should say 1,000. It might be actual things that we didn't get right. It might be, there might be, like, we want to have the manufacturer, for example, for every item that we can. If we know what company made a chair, I want you to know what company made that chair. And you might see that there's an item that doesn't have that because no one knows, but you do because your great grandfather worked for that company. I don't know. This community is so big and everybody knows so much about Titanic that we don't know all of it. So if you see a mistake, if you see something that's missing or something that it might not even be missing, but you might have some information that we don't even know about, you could contact us through a bug report of some sort on our website, perhaps, or in-game. We'll have to iron that out. And you could let us know, of course, with the accompanying evidence of what you think we have wrong. Obviously, if a survivor said offhand in their 90s that this thing happened and we didn't include it, that might not be enough when there are 15 survivors who said it didn't happen or whatever. So we have to do our best to put the right information in this game, and we'll try to get it as close to perfect as we can. But Titanic is such a complicated event that, of course, there will be varying opinions. But if you happen to know and have evidence of something, please let us know, and we can update these log entries as we go. I mean, this is something that long after the game is finished, I would love to continue to update as we discover more things, and make this the source of Titanic knowledge out there, a really incredible Titanic encyclopedia type thing, or museum. And with that in mind, there's also the topic of there's lots of things on Titanic that are no one really knows the true answer. There's debate. The two that come to mind are the propeller signs on the back of the you can't see my model, but the notice boards, are they red and white? Are they black and white? The hatch combings, are they dark masked hatch combings, or are they like gray, black? There's so much about Titanic that is debated every day. People debate. And who are we to say that we know what the correct answer is? So if there is something where both sides have so much evidence, and who knows, we will probably pick the one we think is the most supported. But in the log entry, we will have the information letting you know that this is not necessarily the who knows what this is, and here's the evidence to the other side, and then give you the option to switch back and forth. If you know in your heart, you don't have evidence, but you know that those hatch combings are dark masked, you can switch it to dark masked, and it will be that way for you. So when you take your screenshots, it's the right color for you. So we will give people that opportunity to at least know that there's a debate going on about this object. And maybe we can settle some of those debates. We'll probably start some other ones too. So, but that's the best part. We're all just debating Titanic. That's what we do. And then I think I only had one other thing I wanted to say. Oh, and also we want to do as best we can at sourcing all of our information in these logbooks. I don't know if it'll be in the logbook itself. Probably more likely it would be in like a menu screen somewhere. You could see where we got this information from. And then when you send us, here's a document that no one else has that says this, you should put it in the game. We put it in the game. We put your source. Thanks to this person for providing this evidence. So we can keep this as appropriate as possible and not just say whatever we want. Sources are good. Science is real. Okay. So I think that brings us to questions. We have questions, and then we're going to talk about a little contest, and then we're out of here. And as always, this will be a 2-hour live stream, though we did start late because of technical difficulties. My apologies again. So Derek, I'm not sure if you've been had your eye on some questions.
A super chat from Matt.
Oh,
it says red and white prop signs.
we talk about this all the time. Red and white prop signs from an angry Matt. He drew an angry picture. But yes, that's just one of those things. I mean, I have. Don't worry, Matt. I have the red and white prop signs on my model, and I have this guy, the red and white prop sign recreation that we have on our store, which is not up right now, but it will be soon. So let me make sure I didn't miss any super chats. and then we will look at some of these questions. Derek, do you happen to have the questions pulled up?
Yeah,
anywhere?
yeah, I do.
If you want to start off with a couple, and then I'll check out the list as well and see if there's
sure.
anything.
Yes. So Erica BR on Twitch asks, on which devices is the game going to be playable? Initially, it's going to be just on PC, just because there's a fair bit of work to get it to other platforms as well. Long term, we would like to get it on consoles, but we don't have. We're not thinking that far at this point. One of the reasons is that consoles, again, there is a lot of work to get the game onto consoles, and so we want to. The sort of early access, often updated early access model also doesn't generally work too well on consoles. So probably closer to full game release. We'll look into that and make it any announcements when we know what we're doing. So
cool.
And it will also eventually be on Mac and probably Linux as well.
Good. I have a question here. We get this question a lot, and I think it's good. I'll just address it. This is on YouTube. OceanMan632 asked this question, and similar. OceanMan632 asked this as well. So similar questions from him. But we get this question a lot. Although this isn't about log entries, but that's okay. We'll try and only answer questions about log entries because I do want to focus on that. But will there be other ports of call to explore? How much of Belfast will you get to explore? Southampton? Our main goal is to focus on the ship. So for the foreseeable future, it will just be the ship. Of course, as the ship progresses and we feel comfortable that the ship is moving along, we're making great progress. People love the features that are in the ship, like log entries. We're going to focus on these things. But if everyone's happy and we're clicking along and you're building that, all right, I'm gonna make the Belfast area a little bit explorable so you can get off the ship and look at it. And then, as further down the line, let's add Southampton as a location for where the ship can be docked, just as a backdrop. And then maybe we add the dock. So we can add stuff perhaps, but the only thing I can guarantee you is that we will be focusing on this ship first and foremost. I think the Belfast dock area would be the most likely following that, of course, and things will get progressively more difficult for us to do. But yeah, and the more people that support the project, obviously, the more capabilities we will have. But yeah, okay. Questions about log entries, Derek? Do you have one?
Yeah, this is,
or whatever you got.
Well, down onto Thunder from Twitch asked, will this game have controller support at launch? Very likely right at from day one. If not, it will be very, very soon. So
yeah. I mean, that's that. I'm a controller person. I like controllers, so if anything, I will be pushing for that because I like to sit back and whatnot. I saw a question about how will the log entries be easy to find? This is Pepsi Addict 18. Pepsi Addict 18. Yes, some of them will, some of them won't. I think spatial entries will be very easy to find. Just go into spaces you haven't been before. But physical entries, obviously much harder to find because they're going to be everywhere. The testimonial one's hard to find because they'll be in cabinets and drawers. Some of them will be laid out. I think this will be something we'll have to play test with people. Is it too hard to find these? Should we make it a little bit easier? That sort of thing. I think the hardest to find will be the photos, the visual entries, because you have to find the photo, and there'll be a small number of them because there aren't very many photos of Titanic. Even if you add Olympic and Britannic photos, it's not too many. You have to find them, and then you have to know where they were taken. So if you find a photo of the Britannic during World War I and it's an interior, and it's like, what room is that? I have no idea. You may have to do some searching to find it. But for the avid Titanic enthusiasts, it may be a little bit easier. So they will be harder to find. But one thing that will help, the log entry, the logbook itself is a great way to keep track of where you are lacking in entries. So if you've explored most of B deck and you're like, man, I can't find any more, the logbook will tell you that you've found 25 out of 27 on the Forecastle deck. You've found all of the well deck ones. You're missing 3 in the forward B deck cabins, that sort of thing. So you'll have you don't have to just wander aimlessly. You can go to the space. It's like, okay, I need to find, there's 5 in here. How, where the hell are they? So it'll be broken down in that way. So you can find them that way. And I'm sure there will be lots of people putting locations online somewhere. So that's that. Derek, you got a question?
Yeah, question from P. Tyler's World on YouTube. Will the pianos be playable? I had a great idea about this.
Yeah, you did.
And I mean, maybe Matt will get mad at me, but if anybody has played the video game Rust, I would love to do what they did. And I will leave it at that.
There you go. Some research for you. Yeah, I think this was one of those ideas where I came to you and I was like, so just as an example of something that I think the player should be able to do, if you go up to a piano, for those musicians out there, pianos have a lid that have multiple heights, usually like a midway height and all the way, which controls the volume of the instrument itself. And then usually there's like a lid over the keys as well. And I'd like for them to be able to open that. And Derek was like, well, why stop at that? So I was like, hey, man, if you can make that happen, let's do it. So I see a question actually just randomly. I just happened to look at it and I'd love to put this up. Will log entries have easy to read option for those with dyslexia or slight visual impairments? No, absolutely. That's 100%. There will be that option to, a lot of video games have that where you're looking at a handwritten text, and sometimes the handwriting is so hard to read that everybody needs it. But even, really small text, you could press a button and it makes it full screen and you can scroll and it's white on black. So it's nice and crisp. So
the text, even the handwriting in the game, it's going to be a font. So for accessibility, we can have an accessibility setting that basically changes the fonts, that forces the fonts as well. Yeah. And of course, there'll be subtitles for the voiceovers as well.
I know a lot of these questions were asked along the way, and I know we've answered some of them, but this is one that I would love to answer. This is from the Ufertaffy. Is there a reason why the Forecastle deck will take until Q4 to release? This entire stream is why it's going to take until Q4 to release. We're not just spending the next however many months, that is 6 months or so, building one area of the ship. That is under development. We are making lots of progress on that stuff, but this sort of feature that we're building from the ground up takes quite a bit of time to do, to just collaborate on things and refine something. If we were to do this super quick, we would be releasing something that's not fully finished or good. We want to make sure, and that's why we have a UI director now and a UX director who can help us refine things so the experience is the best that it could possibly be, instead of just, like our demos in the past, empty spaces with text boxes that appear. And some of the text boxes have typos in them. It's like, we did the absolute best that we could with those things. They didn't have typos in them. They did like on day one and then we fixed them. But now we are refining the hell out of the stuff. So the game will have a game aspect to it. So this entire stream should illustrate why we set the goal for Q4 as the Forecastle. And keep in mind, we're also not just doing the Forecastle. The Well deck will also be released in Q4 for Patreon members who get access to that early. And of course, we want to have some progress done ahead of that as well. So we're just a little bit ahead of the game. And there's a lot more than just the Forecastle deck. You're not just going to be standing on the Forecastle deck in an empty gray void. There are other things to see from the Forecastle deck that we're putting a lot of interesting detail into, but I won't talk about that right now because Dominic would be very mad at me. I'm sure that's something he'd like to tell you all about in a future stream. Let's do a couple more questions. Do you have?
There's a $50 super chat from Sophia. I don't know how to
oh, let me throw it up.
buy. I don't know how to pronounce your last
$50?
name. Sorry.
Oh wait, I missed a couple. Sorry. Let me go back a little bit. I will put it up on the screen if you want to answer a
Certainly.
question elsewhere, and then we'll answer this question or whatever it is. Red and white prop sign.
Andy C on YouTube. Is that Andy Kane?
Perhaps.
Asked, will there be different view modes like third person? We're juggling the idea around. It makes it adds a few major technical hurdles in order to do it, and also in terms of gameplay, some things would have to be rethought for that. So it isn't something that we're likely to do anytime soon, but there's a lot of ideas on the back burner. So,
though, one thing that I think we could do, if you played Britannic, Patroness of the Mediterranean, available now on Steam, you could. There's like a free camera thing where you can like fly around. Essentially, that definitely won't be in the alpha because the alpha is not. Until the full exterior is finished, then that sort of thing would be available. But we'd love to do that, I'm sure, so you can have that view of Titanic from beautiful perspectives for the sake of screenshots. But third person, like behind a body of a human, like the GTA, for example, is a little bit less likely. Here's a super chat from Jared F. Another Jared F. Thank you. Very generous. Will the log entries include nautical terminology as well as a description of what each crew position did? One of the things that I've been playing with is that certain equipment on deck would have the name of the position on the crew that would operate that. I just have to do a lot more research on that to make that more comprehensive. It's obviously the lookouts were in the crow's nest, but like everything else is pretty complicated. I'd love to include as much nautical information as possible, even to use the anchor cables as an example. They're obviously chains, but in nautical terms, they're known as anchor cables. Because that's what they were for a very long time, actual like cables. And now by Titanic's day and age, they're definitely made of wrought iron chains. But we want to include as much of that information as possible. Ideally, you feel like not just a Titanic expert by the time you fill up that logbook, but a nautical expert. That'd be pretty cool. Derek? Still trying to find that super chat that I missed. Oh, I found it. Sorry, here it is.
Yeah, there are more, yeah.
Okay, so this is Sophia. Maybe this has already been answered, but are there going to be puzzles or other reasons to use log entries to solve mysteries? Something like Return of the Obra Dinn gameplay. I support your amazing work. Keep it up, guys. Thank you so much, Sophia. It's great that you bring up the Obra Dinn because I have never played that game, but I've watched lots of gameplay of it because it's fascinating and really well done. And it isn't too dissimilar from like the log entry thing because there's like a book and it's more about solving murders, or not really murders, but deaths, which is terribly interesting. There is something about Titanic that has puzzles. Puzzles and Titanic go together. There will be things in the ship that, or I hope to have in the ship that have that sort of puzzle aspect to it, but nothing in terms of solving mysteries. That, though I will say, there is a feature that we have not talked about and will not talk about for a while, that I think will fill that void for you. That desire for some mysteryness. There is features being planned in my brain, and they're on documents and stuff, and the team is aware that these are things that I'd like to do, but in terms of log entries, they're mostly informational, and the puzzle comes from lining up the photo at the right spot or finding testimonial entries and using them to find other testimonial entries from that same person. So there's some nice puzzle-ness to the game as of now. Let's see. Oh, I got more super
Yeah,
chats. Yeah, let me just
there-
keep going through these. So we got from Shane, will there be any kind of map in the ship logbook? If so, will you be able to see your location in fast travel? That's a question we get all the time, the fast travel thing. One, yes, there will be a map. We just discussed this yesterday. I don't think it will be in the logbook. It'll be a separate item altogether. Because in the logbook, it's not very big. Like maybe it has like a fold out map. So it would be its own map. And you can see where you are on the map, and perhaps even the map shows you, where like log entries there's missing, this room needs more, this room you found all of them, that sort of thing. But and then in terms for fast travel, I think that's a must, don't you think, Derek?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. We're big on fast travel.
Yeah, and I saw Matt's comment in the chat, and yeah, did anybody say deck plans? Deck plans.
Deck plans, yeah, right. So okay, I think that's all of them. But I'm big on fast travel for this game, and as a developer, I personally, if I can play a video game and never fast travel, that's my ideal. I'm very much realist in the way I play games. I think I played Skyrim for 400, 500 hours, and I never fast traveled. I just if I have to go across the map by horse, I'm going to do it. It's part of the experience for me. Okay, I think that's all the log entries. It's 6:00. Let's answer 2 more questions. So find one more question each. I've been answering a lot from YouTube. Let me answer something from Twitch. Do you have one?
I think I've pretty much
okay. I
here.
have one more, and then we okay, yeah, okay. I got one more good question. Cool. So, does the Forecastle deck include the Crow's Nest? This is from, DJOUBYE from Twitch. Does the Forecastle deck include the Crow's Nest and all the rope ladders leading up to the mast? So, complicated question. So the Forecastle deck does not, because there's no way to get up to the Crow's Nest from the Forecastle deck. The way up to the Crow's Nest is through the Crow's Nest, the mast. The foremast was hollow on the inside and had a ladder inside it. And you got in that from, I believe, C deck below. So right under the Forecastle deck, you would go in and then go up. And then, so that's how you would get up there. But also there's the ratline shrouds that go up beyond the Crow's Nest to an iron ladder that led up to a lamp. So you could do that from the well deck, though. We will not be able to do that in the initial release of the well deck, because if you climbed all the way up to the mast, you could see, parts of Titanic that we haven't gotten to yet. And though we have a plan for that, so perhaps there's wiggle room. But at the moment, you will not be able to climb the mast in the forecastle or well deck until we have more for you to see from way up there. But you will eventually. That is an absolute goal. I need you to be able to climb the ratline shrouds, climb the iron ladder, open the lamp, and and there would be an entry for that lamp. What's it made of? What was it for? There would be an entry for that iron ladder, ideally in a perfect world. So yes, those things. I want you to be able to lower the flags from the well deck, that sort of thing. I mean, if my dream is that we do all of those things, and it is everybody's dream on the team to do our best to make those things happen. But as always, we focus on the ship first, and then we focus on the other stuff. So let's talk about this contest, and then we all got to go. I have to let my dog outside. She's been growling. So let me talk about this. So we've done some giveaways, and some prizes have gone out. And that's been fun. But now we are going, I see a comment, seagulls for sure. I hope you're talking about those amazing seagulls from Demo 3. Everybody remember the first release of Demo 3 had those seagulls in them? Wow, those were nightmare fuel. So those will not be in the thing. All right, so this is our last thing, and then we're going to go. So we're going to have a contest. You guys will have 1 week to enter this contest. So it will end at 6:00 on next Saturday. And then at our next live stream, which is Monday not this coming Monday, but the next Monday, me and Matt are going to sit down. In fact, I'll put this up now.
31st, I believe.
Yes, it's the 31st. I have this little. This is our coming up. Ignore the fact that you can see me still. So this is our upcoming streams on May 31st. Dev stream number 5. Matt and I are just going to sit and answer your questions for like an hour or so. So basically what we just did for the past 10 minutes, we're just going to do that. Any questions you have, we're going to try to answer them. And then this is a little bit of an announcement. The following stream, we haven't talked about the topic, but at the moment it is B deck breakdown. We're going to go through everything that we're working on for the or everything we're going to work on the spaces on B deck. That's subject to change. If something else comes up, something cool, we can show you guys some new images. Maybe we'll change that up. But that's the current topic. And then keep in mind, everybody, all week long, we have these things that we're calling shipyard streams, and that is where Dominic, our technical and art director, he builds Titanic on Twitch, and Twitch and YouTube. I forget which one he does it on. And then Zeno, our merchandise guy, he paints hand models. As many of you know, we talked about it at our last stream. He just sits and paints. He plays beautiful, like relaxing music, and he just hand paints these models. And it's the most relaxing thing. It's so great. And then also it's nice to see how much work goes into those models. And then we're going to have more things. Other team members hopefully will start streaming their process, and you can follow the building of Titanic literally as we're doing it. So be sure to subscribe and follow our YouTube and Twitch and get those alerts so Zeno, and because there's really no schedule to them really. It's just Zeno's like, all right, I'm going to go live for the next 3 hours and paint, or Dominic's working, and I'll show people what I'm working on. Dominic also streams Star Citizen if you're into that too.
Dominic was hoping to do a few streams over the last week or so, but he's been having internet issues. So
yes.
He's hoping to have that all fixed, and we'll start doing these streams again this week probably.
Right. So yeah, definitely follow us for those. But back to this contest, you guys have until a week from right now, and then on the May 31st stream, we will announce the winners of the contest. The contest is a model making contest, not necessarily the plastic model behind me. If that's what you do, if you make beautiful Titanic models, send us your stuff. But this could also be a Lego model. It could be a Titanic you made out of cake. In fact, that would go a long way for me. It has to be a 3D Titanic that you made, but not like a 3D printer, or like a virtual 3D thing that you made. We will definitely do a contest for that, I'm sure. But this contest in particular, it has to be you made it with your hands or with tools or whatever, but it's a 3D thing. And it's Titanic, and it doesn't have to, we don't know what we're judging it off of. It's not necessarily historical accuracy, because again, if you make a Titanic out of cake, it's going to be pretty high on my list. But when a week goes by, we'll shut down the whole thing, and the team will all look through these pictures, and we'll pick our favorite ones. And this is the email you can send it to. Let me throw this up. Did I make this? Yes, I did. Here is the email you can send it to: contest@vdr-games.com. Send it through a Google Drive link, please. So go on Google Drive, upload your picture, and send us that link. That makes it easier for us, and then we can go through all your pictures and see and send. Let's just say send one picture. You get one. Make it good. And the winners will receive, I don't know, did we ever, I asked this question in the thing. I don't know if anybody ever answered it. So definitely third place is going to get, I believe, a mug. And then second place is getting like a mug and a t-shirt. Maybe we'll solidify these more. But first place, did we solidify this? I should have asked.
Yes. First place is getting a year's early access to the alpha.
Right.
So,
So they're
the same
essentially
as-
getting Patreon status for the alpha. That's right. And that's like, I think we counted, it's like $144 worth of a
Yes,
prize, which is
yeah.
actually pretty solid. So you would get early access to all the alpha stuff starting when the alpha comes out, not starting like now when you win. If you already have that, we will talk with you about a better prize for you. If you're already somebody who's like, I already am on your Patreon, so what do I get? We will think of something great for you as well. So send us those images, and we will get back to you. So that's it for us here at Random Red Room and Cabinet Room. This has been fun. This has been the stream I've been looking forward to the absolute most. And barring dumb technical difficulties, as always, telling you one day this stream's going to start. I'm going to say this. Our next stream is going to start on time. It's going to start at noon. That's the time, by the way. A heads up on that. I'll put it up one more time. This is what's coming up. We are doing our next stream is May 31st at noon. So be aware of that and join us for that. Derek, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your knowledge. And thank you for all your hard work on this stuff.
I wouldn't be here if I didn't love it.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm going to really quickly just click through all the visuals that we looked at today, just so you can see them one last time. And then we're going to go. So thank you so much. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Many brave things were done that night, but no more brave than by those few men playing minute after minute as the ship settled quietly lower and lower in the sea. The music they played served alike as their own immortal requiem, and their right to be recalled on the scrolls of undying fame.